Hi everyone. Today we're going to learn about the idea of changing one's perspective when looking at another person. In the book Tanya by the Alter Rebbe, let's learn in chapter Lamed Beis, it's 32nd chapter. Over here, the Alter Rebbe speaks about the idea of loving another person. And at the end of the chapter, he brings up a question. What about if there's a reason not to love someone else? Actually, in fact, maybe even reason to hate another person. What then? What do we do? So the Alter Rebbe says, V'harachmanus mivatelis hasina, that the compassion, it nullifies the hatred. Uma'oreres ha'ava, and it arouses the love. Kinoida mimashikasuv, it's known what is written, Yaakov asher pada es Avraham, that Yaakov redeems his grandfather Abraham. So what does that mean? How could it be that Jacob, his grandson, will wind up redeeming his grandfather Abraham? What are we talking about here? So I want to illustrate it with a story of the famous Rebbe, the Chiddushei Harim, the first Ger Rebbe. When Ger moved to the town of Ger, away from Warsaw, initially the Chiddushei Harim, the Rebbe, wanted to daven, to pray with only 10 people. Every day it should be, his minyan should be a complete 10 people and no one else. Well, as you can imagine, all of the Chassidim wanted to be a part of those 10 people. So there was always a mad rush to try to get into the Rebbe's office. The secretary had to stand at the door and stop the people. Until 10, that's it. Sorry, no one else could come. Well, what happened one day? Mr. 11 came in and he started arguing with the secretary. The secretary said, I'm sorry, only 10. This man argued and argued and argued until whack! The man hit the secretary across the face. The secretary was stunned. And in that moment, the man walked into the office. The secretary walked out, taking care of his bleeding nose. And the man was in the office. Well, the Rebbe turned around and said, there's only 9 people here. I said, Rebbe, look around. There's 10. I said, there's only 9. He said, Rebbe, there's 10. Excuse us, but there's 10. He said, listen, if someone hits another person, he can't be included in a minyan. At that moment, the secretary walked back into the office. The man was devastated. He broke down crying. Tears were rolling off of his face. You could just imagine the tension in the room. And he says to the secretary, I'm so sorry that I did this. But he and his wife had been married for many years and they didn't have any children. And he thought, this is our last hope. That hopefully, if he would just daven with the Rebbe, he'd be able to merit to have children. Well, the Rebbe looked at the two of them, wondering what's going to happen. And he says to the secretary, no, as if, are you going to forgive him? The secretary looked at the man, looked at the Rebbe, and the secretary said, I'll only forgive him under one condition, that the Rebbe promises that he will have children this year. The Rebbe's face lit up, and he said, Amen! So it should be. And in fact, the story goes that year, this man did have children. So let's go back to our original question. To Jacob who redeems Abraham. The books of Chassidus and Kabbalah explain that Jacob is the attribute of compassion. Abraham is the attribute of love. Sometimes the love inside of ourselves is locked up. It's hidden. And you can't get to it. And you need compassion to break down that doorway, to open up that love for another person in your heart. And so that's what happened here. Despite that terrible situation, when he changed his perspective, when the secretary looked at the world from the shoes of the other man, the love burst out. And that's the story for today. Until next time.